Hey, everybody, this is Alan Fine, and I'm here with Dan Austin, who's the founder and CEO of Austin Adventures. It's a family-owned adventure travel company with decades of experience and unmatched access to our national parks, or as they've come to be known in the last year as the virus-free zones. So you will see in this interview that Dan is an innovator and a true supporter of travel advisors. And just today, his monthly musing came out. It was entitled, What a Difference a Year Makes. And coincidentally, that's absolutely the subject of this video. So welcome to Insider Travel Report.
Well, thanks, Alan. Appreciate you having me on.
That's great.
And I'm surprised. I'm glad to hear somebody actually reads my muse.
Somebody actually reads them. I appreciate it. And it was literally, I want to go through the year. I want to talk about, for example, way back in March of 2020, you were way out front because I noticed you were immediately saying no questions asked policy on changes and cancellations. And you were right there doing that. Let's talk about that for a moment. How did you come to that, and what were your feelings back in March of 2020?
You know, March, probably I was in New York for the Adventure Travel Trade Show and for some meetings and some media events. And literally, it was like a bad movie. People's cell phones started ringing and they started getting notices in a meeting, right? I was sitting next to a lady that was a Chinese operator, and you could just see panic come over her face. And this was probably late February. And we're in New York City, ground zero.
Before that, it was murmurings, but this was the switch.
Exactly. 100%. By the time we left New York, we had a couple more meetings. We actually ended up in Canada and a couple other places, but it was clear something big was happening and nobody really knew what that was or what it would mean. And there was, rumors. We'd been hearing about it for a few months, but in really, insignificant doses. So it was pretty clear pretty quickly that it was serious. And I think with that, the biggest thing for us was just the unknown. We were just getting ready for our 2020 season in the Southwest, like our early season stuff. We had people scattered all over the world. We do trips all over the world on all 7 continents, trying to figure out how to get them home. My son was in India trying to figure out how to get home. And literally it was just, we spent a very few weeks just literally not having a clue what we're going to do. Where is this going? What are we going to do? And I'm really proud of our team. We brought everybody together, including a lot of our guides. And we said, guys, what are we going to do? And we made a decision early on to make sure it defined us and didn't crater us, because there was a couple of sleepless nights where I'm thinking it's over with. How are we going to ever get through this? And then everybody just rolled up their sleeves and worked together. And we ended up running tours. And
how long did it take before you came up with the ABCs? Let's tell them what that is.
I have to give credit to a friend of mine. I was listening to his podcast, and he had a combat vet on there, and he was talking about hardcore, Iraq, Afghanistan battles. He was a Navy SEAL, and he started talking about, how they react and how they plan and and I'm like, that's us. That's right now. That's what we're dealing with, right. So I stole that from him, and that was immediate. And no idea what an impact that would have. None. That was just a whim. I'm listening to a podcast 1 minute. Next minute, I'm shooting an email off to my staff.
Which just shows everybody listening, it can happen now too. So keep listening. All right, keep going.
So literally sent an email off to my staff, said, hey guys, thanks for all the support. We're going to move forward. And I've got this theory that I just heard. This is what we're going to do. And we immediately started managing that way.
Well, explain what the A and the B and the C stands for.
Well, it was anticipate. So that means if it could go wrong, in this case, it would. And literally we saw that we had to have a plan A, B, C, and D, right?
And as a tour company, you already know that. This was just heightened.
Never in 25 years have we ever pulled into the parking lot of one of our scheduled hotels and have them close as we're turning the car off. Right?
Oh, no.
No. And that happened more than once. So it's anticipate, it's be honest. Honest communication. This is, everybody's dealing with COVID. Everybody's trying to figure out what it means. We're all in the same boat. It was be honest and communicate. And I think if I had to pick one that really served us well, it was the communicate. That you mentioned the Muse. That was a byproduct of this. I thought, we don't want flashy, HTML newsletters, and we don't want, you can't sell, you can't push out, sales emails or sales broadcasts. So we started using the Muse, written by me every week. Originally, it was every week. We're now fortunately down to once a month.
Yeah.
But it was just a way of communicating what we're seeing, what we're hearing, what we're feeling.
Well, A, B, C, and B is be honest, and let's be honest, it's really H, but you can get away with it. It's pretty cute.
Creative license.
Right, now it's fine. So now we're moving into the month of March, and then I noticed Casey Austin came up with, or maybe she didn't come up with it, but she definitely ran it, this thing that, like, how do we involve families now? And with school closures, she started hosting virtual adventures for kids, which seemed like it was pretty popular. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, we were way ahead of the curve on that. As time went on, a lot of others started doing that. And we have a friend that's a school teacher, and immediately she's, having to teach from home We have, a lot of our staff have kids, and we early on saw a need, something, and we were just disappointed because by April, we should be in the Southwest. We should be in the Galapagos. We should be, around the world having these great adventures. And so Casey's background, she went to college, university to be a school teacher. So she's just a kid magnet anyways. She just literally is a kid magnet. It was easy. I mean, it was really easy. We said, hey, let's try it. Let's do Yellowstone. And then next thing you know, and they were a ton of work. I mean, I can't believe the amount of work she put into each one.
Well, I'm hoping that some of that material can be repurposed. It's not.
It can be. And, again, it wasn't our original intention, but they kind of went viral. We would have 1,000 kids at each one of these things, and their parents would be saying, "Never heard of you guys. We're going to be traveling with you. As soon as we can travel again, we're going. We want Casey as our guide." So on and so forth. And so, yeah, it was a lot of the things that happened early on were fortuitous, but they were also by accident. And we're not that brilliant. It was literally, we made some decisions, made some mistakes, but we also made some decisions to move forward.
Well, I saw some numbers later that you estimate around 6,500 kids and families were watching. So that's a win.
It is. Yeah. And they were fun.
Absolutely. So are you going to continue that even past this pandemic?
Right now, we're at capacity, just keeping up with the season. We're a record-breaking year.
I forgot. There's a glut now, right? Okay.
Yeah, and if I ask Casey to do one now, she'd disown me, right?
Right. No, it's a new job.
We'd like to bring them back. We would definitely like to do them. They really were fun. They really were informative, and they were a good marketing tool.
Well, I'd say by April, I noticed that you again innovated, and you started to say that you wanted to put together a 2-part stimulus program for travel advisors. So the real key one was that agents would be paid half their commission at the time of booking. I hadn't heard that until this point. You were one of the first. And then you also had special packages where agents, if they got groups together, you were definitely innovative and trying then. How did that work?
I have to be honest again, the pay 50% of the commission came up when I was on a call working with an agent to move a guest for the 4th time. And somehow in the conversation, it came up that he was going to starve to death because he wasn't going to see that they were moving to 2022. And he says, I won't get any commission until, and I never thought of it. I said, what do you mean you won't get any commission until 2022? And he says, I won't. So we immediately on that call, I said, okay, stand by. We're going to fix this.
Well, that's an example of getting in someone else's shoes while you're talking to them.
Well, and again, in honesty, we take a deposit. There's enough money to go around. The biggest risk if that person cancels, but it doesn't happen that often. So we literally, and it was super well received. I mean, literally, that helped us kind of crack that code of getting more agent bookings.
Well, in fact, it seems as if I saw a number out of 1,000 bookings for 2020, like 90% or some crazy number, you were able to keep them all involved and rebooked.
Yeah, either rebook or, we've still got people that have money in escrow that haven't rebooked yet. They're still waiting to see. A lot of them are traveling this year. So 2022 is looking pretty good. But it was, 10, 15% just flat wanted their money back, their deposits back, whatever it was. There was a few weeks there where I was writing more checks out than income coming in. And it was like, okay, how long can this last? But all in all, it was everybody, with very few exceptions, was incredible. Like literally, it was like one of those cases, we're all in this together. And we liberalized our cancellation policies. Again, put it right on our homepage. The only we had a policy, but we also noted the only true policy is no policy. Tell us what the problem is. Tell us what you got to do, and we'll do our best. We're really proud of that. We had 0 chargebacks.
Well, that's flexibility. That's part of the ABCs all the way to F. So now, as what you also did that was interesting during the pandemic is you doubled down and you started to plan for the return of travel, in that you created opportunities. Like, for example, the first in North Carolina, Eagle's Nest homestays.
We actually started that in 2019. We ran a couple. It was our first. We've never really been out east. We haven't been out east in 20 years. So I have a friend that owns Eagle's Nest, which is a beautiful development. I was out there visiting them, saw that they had a pool of rental homes. So in other words, these 7,000 square foot, beautiful, luxury mountaintop homes. And so we saw an opportunity. What we found in those intrepid travelers in 2020, they wanted their bubble. They did not want to go to, Yellowstone or wherever. They wanted complete autonomy. They wanted the house, the chef, the guides, their own van. And that's what probably a good third of our bookings, actual travelers in 2020, were those people that wanted that little travel bubble. So these homestays work perfect for that.
Well, this is like the European villas. This is
Right.
our domestic version. But then that's just one example of many such offerings. As you probably started to investigate and look for, you found more of these kinds of locations, right?
We did. And, again, it was just a new market for us here in Big Sky. We're in Montana. Big Sky's got a ton of these. We just rented I don't know who has a 12,000 foot vacation home. We just rented a 12,000 foot vacation home for a family of 22.
A year ago today, in fact, the national parks opened up. Okay, so that's what I want you to explain.
Well, so we, as a tour operator, currently we're booking accommodations, subcontractors, restaurants for 2022, 2023. So we're out there a couple of years in advance. So our 2020 season was really already booked. The hotels were all booked. Everybody's, ready to go. But then the national parks, vast majority of the national park properties did not open. So literally Yellowstone did open with a whole list of requirements and regulations. And we worked closely with the National Park Service and the CDC to create an operating manual for it. But the accommodations didn't open. The restaurants didn't open. So here we are set to bring people into the parks, with no room at the inn.
So tents?
Fortunately, the gal that does our accommodations has been with me 20 years, and she literally stays on top of it. So we were fortunate that she saw it coming and literally had backup properties in the bedroom communities of the park. So like Yellowstone, it's West Yellowstone. Grand Tetons, it's Jackson. So a lot of these bedroom communities, we had options. Alaska was challenging, but we had, the concessionaires weren't opening up, but the private properties outside the parks were. So we just rebuilt the trips.
That's good. Now, again, as I'm pointing out how you didn't contract but expanded during the pandemic and did it in innovative ways, you have a history of finding partners and picking them up. So you've been around 35 years now. So the most recent one in my notes, I have Wildland Adventures. But you acquired them. And tell me what it takes. What is it that you're looking for when you're partnering up like that?
Oh, probably just opportunity. I mean, I'm opportunistic. I was on a phone call with Kurt Couttet, the owner of Wildland, 35 year. I've known Kurt for 25 plus years, and he is totally international. So he saw the international scene just shutting down, period. So he laid off all his staff, and he was literally, I don't know what I'm going to do. Obviously I'm not going to rebound from this. And so we were able to work out a deal where we just took over his book of business, and then on a revenue split, and I paid him a little bit for the business. So this year we're actually running trips for Wildland guests.
But another example of this is that instead of contracting and getting smaller, you then also went on a hiring spree during the pandemic. Let's talk about that a little bit.
I think sometimes people, if they hear this, they're going to think I was crazy. It's in any business, it's always challenging to find really, really top good help. It's always going to be that way. And so early on, maybe August, first off, we didn't lay anybody off. Some of us took pay cuts, or at least locked in pay freezes for a while till this was over with, the key kind of upper management. But that was pretty short lived. But what we did is we saw an opportunity. I just started seeing on LinkedIn and different job boards some serious talent looking for work. I mean, when the big guys lay off, they don't lay off 5 people, they lay off 50 people. And so one thing just led to another, and we were able to pick up some really solid talent. That, and you go back to where we started this conversation, Zoom calls, we all of a sudden realized, wait a minute, they don't have to be here in Montana. They're not in the office anyway. So now we have staff in New Jersey and Vermont and Boulder, Colorado, and Seattle, all these, which before I never would have, I would have done it, but reluctantly.
And the idea that you're doing that and you're picking up all this new talent, that brings us to the discussion of the actual guides. Guides are some of the most important people that you can hire. They face the audience. And so now, what did you do to start finding them during the pandemic?
Well, we were fortunate that, again, we ran about 25% of what we normally would do last year. Right. So in 2020, we still operated a handful of trips. So we were able to keep, let's call it our core crew, our veterans. We have guides that have been with us 10, 15, 20 years. And so literally that core crew was intact. And then we started, so that got us through last year, right? We had enough work to keep them busy. They wanted it. Some of them left the industry. But we had enough. We didn't hire any new guides, I can tell you that, last year. Then this year, with the explosion, it put us in a position we knew we were going to need a lot of new guides. So we started looking last November and just started the conversations and started, picking them up. And everybody is looking now, and we could still probably use a few more.
You declared it Travel Advisor Month in February before May, because that's how important they are to you. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Well, we've been trying to crack the code to get more travel professional bookings, travel agent bookings, whatever you want to call them, for decades. And it's always hovered in that 10, 15%. And we couldn't figure out why. A lot of consumer direct. But we really like the agent community, and we really like working with them. And we realize they bring in business that we're not going to bring in. And so we just could double down. We just literally, we're Virtuoso preferred, attend the Virtuoso events, started sending out specific, marketing communication to those agents, and really letting them know. And it's funny because a lot of them don't know the national parks. They're more comfortable sending somebody to Zimbabwe than they are Montana.
Yeah, but that's changed since the pandemic. I think that they're more open.
Right, exactly. And so are travelers, though. We're seeing people traveling in the U.S. that never would have thought about it before.
I assume that your trips are very detailed, and it actually is better for a travel advisor to assist the consumer and the traveler in understanding what it is you actually offer. True?
It is. And it also goes back to what we were talking about a minute ago with, the national parks are sold out right now. So for, Joe Q travel agent to try and put together a trip for one of his clients at this point, we're still getting calls for next week, right? can't help them too much, but the parks are sold out. So it is that inventory that we have that's kind of that secret sauce that starts it. And then with a tour operator, via us or anybody else, that behind the scene knowledge to get away from those crowds. I mean, they're expecting 4 to 5 million people in Yellowstone alone this year. And, because we know the park so well, we can have a much better experience because we can get away from those crowds.
You've got a backstage pass to national parks.
We like to think so, yes. That's where we play. When we're not working, it's where we play. Each national park is different. And that's the other thing that a tour operator brings to the table is pandemic or no pandemic, every national park is run like its own entity. There's no one size fits all. So the rules in Yellowstone are different than the rules in Glacier. So Yellowstone has implemented a vaccine policy, right? Where in order to run at 100%, commercial tour operators must require their guests be vaccinated or tested. Grand Canyon did that. And then 2 weeks later, forgave it, said, no, we're not going to do it. So the rules are changing every day. And I think that's the real value of a tour operator is we are connected. We're talking to the superintendent of the parks. We're talking to the staff on the ground. Our guides are on the ground this week. And then, and they know that this trail is closed or, because we're still dealing with pandemic trail closures.
It's like, it doesn't matter whether you're domestic or you're foreign, you've got to worry about the territory and the rules for it. And then again, that's where you come in and also the travel advisor. Very important.
And that's what I've been doing in any webinar I've done or any, speaking gig I've done. I've tried to really emphasize the value of working with a travel professional. First off, they know the tour operators. They know the rules. They know what they, know when they're over their heads, they need to get help. They know if they can do it. I just think that now more than ever, the trend will be that travel professionals are making a strong comeback or a strong increase. They're just proving they're out. Whether it be flight cancellations. We purposely don't do flights. But look at all the grief that was caused when trying to get your money back, trying to get rescheduled, or trying to understand. It's crazy out there, and it still is.
What should travel advisors tell their clients to expect when considering an Austin adventure?
I think that, leave it to us. I mean, leave the details to us. Don't stress. Get on the plane, get off the plane. We're going to pick you up. And for the next week or whatever it is, we're going to take care of every detail. Trust me. It's like a duck, on the water. It looks calm and serene, but under the water, those little legs are going. And that's what being a tour operator is like. The guides, you mentioned them earlier. I give so much credit to them because they're the first line of defense, and they have so many different plans in place, whether it be rules and regulations, client, guest abilities. One guest might be a century bike rider, while the other one hasn't been on a bike in 20 years. So they're really good at assessing every situation and maximizing it. You're going to get more in that week. I think you probably know this, but that's how I got into this business. I went on a trip as a guest, and I thought this was the most relaxing vacation I've ever had because I had to make no decisions. I got a flat tire on my bike. Kid rolled up, fixed that flat tire, and off I went. It was great. So I think that's it. It's kind of really, we hear it all the time, stress-free.
Well, I hope this gets travel advisors excited to work with you. So, how do they do that? What's the best way for them to get in touch and to get involved?
Obviously they can go to the website, austinadventures.com. Right. Plenty of different clicks there, whatever they're looking for, they can surf it and find it. I sure don't mind them reaching out to me directly, Dan@austinadventures.com. It's that simple, Dan@austinadventures. I'm an email addict. And what I'll do is I'll make sure they tell me what they're looking for, and I'll make sure it goes to the right staff person.
And any programs that they can get for training or anything like that you run?
We're definitely working on it. We have a bunch of recordings on our website. There is a travel agent portal. It needs a little bit of work. That's one of our next projects, is to make that, with more agent resources there. But the best bet really is visit the website, get an idea if that's what we're looking for. We didn't talk about this much, but we do a lot of custom adventures. We do some ridiculous customized trips, not just all scheduled. So if they've got a high-end client that they just want the perfect trip for, and they, let us roll with it. Tell us what you're looking for. You wouldn't believe what we've done. And they're actually quite fun.
Well, give us an idea of some of the luxury trips that you purvey.
Well, it's always it's a fun challenge. It's always fun to mix the national parks with luxury, with 5-star, because they're not, the accommodations aren't. But there's a Four Seasons in Jackson, just south of Teton National Park, so you can mix the two. And then we have a whole laundry list of hot air balloon rides, mountaintop helicopter dinners, scenic floats with pulling over at sunset and having sundowners or a dinner. So there's literally, you're only limited by their imagination, and we are seeing a lot more of that, a lot more. They have to be realistic that that they're if they want to go into the national parks, some nights they may not get 5 stars. But we're just, again, back to the ABCs. We're just honest with them about it and say, this is the best spot for tonight. Just, it's not the Four Seasons. We just booked one, $195,000 for 2 people, national parks.
So what are they doing? What's their itinerary?
Oh my gosh, they're starting in Glacier, Yellowstone, down into the Southwest. But, Four Seasons when it's available, private helicopter rides to dinner on top of a mountain, you name it. Don't get me started.
No. So you can handle the ultra luxury vacation.
Yeah.
So what haven't we covered? Are there any final thoughts that you want to give? We have over 75,000 travel advisors listening in.
Give us a shot. Give us a call. If we don't have it, oftentimes I'll know who does, and I can make recommendations. Consider us a partner. We're in this together. Our whole goal collectively is get more people traveling, right? So if you want to, raft to Colorado, we don't raft to Colorado, but I have 2 very good friends that do, that I would recommend highly. So literally consider us a resource. Be realistic. We are running out of space. Calling up for space in June is crazy. I mean, it's not going to happen. We're going to see June of 2022. You bet. July, August, a little bit better. September. It's again, people are booking shorter windows. So it's pretty darn tough to get anything in June, July, but think ahead, try and get your guests to think about, what can they do now? Can they start planning 2022? Absolutely. Can they start traveling internationally? Absolutely. So I mean, literally just there's no better time. I just got back from Mexico, and I'm telling you what, there are fewer crowds. The Mexican people were so welcoming. Their safety protocols were second to none. I took my whole family to celebrate getting vaccinated, and it was great. Less people in the airport, less people at customs. It could get into any restaurant you wanted to. And literally it was, so this is a great time to travel internationally. You just might have to do a little bit of coaching and encouragement.
Well, I really appreciate you talking to us. I see you as an innovator. I see you out front figuring this stuff out. So I wish you a lot of luck with everything that you worked on, and I hope it all comes to fruition as we proceed.
So do we. But thanks, Alan. Thanks for having us. It's going to be wild times in the travel business in the years to come, but we're ready for it. And again, appreciate you having us on.
And this is Alan Fine for Insider Travel Report.